For this video, we're going to talk about a core feature of CSS called inheritance. What you can see here is we have an example file where all of the author colors have been removed. In the style sheet, we've taken out all the colors. And so let's just very quickly add an orange color to the body. So if we go back and hit reload, the text changes to orange. The masthead JavaCode T, of course, that's an image, so it doesn't change, and the other images don't become orange, but all of the regular text is turned to orange. But what you just did is you set the body element to be orange. You didn't say anything about the other elements in the document. And all of the content here is in other elements. There's no text that's directly a part of the body. All of the text here is actually inside of other elements which are descended from the body. And we didn't say anything about them. We just said that the body should be orange. So why is all this other text orange? I mean, other than because, gosh darn it, that's what I would expect to happen. Computers, of course, are notoriously short on intuition, so just because you think something should happen doesn't mean that the computer's automatically going to do it. There needs to be a mechanism. In that case, the mechanism is inheritance. So let's consider the document structure. Take a look at the document tree again. What happens is that you apply, in our case, the color orange to the body element, and then that value for a color propagates its way down the tree and goes to the other elements in the tree and keeps on going down, propagating downwards, 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 spreading downward from the body. Child elements inherit values from their parent elements. Now, not every property is inherited. Not every CSS property is inherited. The exceptions generally are a matter of common sense. Things like borders. You wouldn't want a situation where you applied a border to the body and then every single element throughout the entire document suddenly got the same border. That would just be icky. Generally speaking, the properties that are inherited are the ones that it just makes sense that they would be, like color or font weight or font family, things like that. And the things that aren't inherited are the things that it wouldn't make sense to inherit, like borders and margins and padding and width and so on. Now, there's one thing you might have noticed. The links are still blue. The hyperlinks have stayed blue. They're not orange. Basically, the reason for that is that a value is only inherited if there's no competition. If there's nothing to compete with the inherited value, then it applies. For example, we could take the sidebar and set its color to be teal. Sort of a nice blue there. And then if we hit reload, the foreground of the sidebar, the text, and some of the associated borders have now become teal. And the reason for that is that we had two colors, in effect, that apply to the sidebar. What you see here is that the orange made its way down to the sidebar div, but with our new rule, we are explicitly assigning a color of teal to that element. So it wins out, the explicitly assigned value wins out over the inherited value, and then the new value that we've just assigned to the sidebar div, that propagates its way down its subtree of the document tree, basically, to all the descendant elements of the sidebar div. The reason that works is because inherited values have no specificity. You'll recall we talked about specificity earlier in the chapter. Inherited values don't have zero specificity. They have none at all. An inherited value will always lose to a directly assigned value. And the blue for the links is coming from the user agent style sheet. The browser has a built-in style, effectively, that says unvisited links should be blue. So when we said body color orange, that orange color propagated its way down the document tree, and then when it reaches a hyperlink, there are two conflicting values there. There's the inherited value of orange, and there's the directly assigned value of blue from the browser. That directly assigned value wins because it has some associated specificity. The inherited value has none at all. The other thing about inherited values is not only do they lose their specificity, but they also lose their importance. I could say body color orange important, so that it's really important to me that the color orange be used here. That applies when the color orange is applied to the body element. The important takes hold. But if we hit reload here, you see there's no change, because as the orange value is inherited, the specificity is lost and the importance is lost. As you can see here, the links stay blue, the sidebar stays teal. That's what happens when it comes to inheritance. Oftentimes, there's a bit of a misconception. People will start talking about the cascade when what they're really talking about is inheritance, because they think, well, the style cascades its way down the document tree. As we've seen earlier in this chapter, the cascade is actually the set of conflict resolution mechanisms that are used to determine how disparate styles are brought together and a final presentation style sheet is arrived at, the process of having one style propagate to child elements like color did here is inheritance, not cascading.